Nintendo.
And I'm Sega. This is Console War! So what do you want to do tonight?
Actually, Weird Al's debuting a new video on Saturday Night Live. Let's watch that.
But we're probably gonna have to sit through all those awful sketches first.
I hate having to sit through those unfunny sketches.
You and me both. Well, here we go. Oh, look at this mansion. Subs guy.
Hey guys, the subs are here!
Ray Romano? I can't believe I'm delivering subs to the X-Men. You guys saved me from the Juggernaut. I owe you my life. And you guys owe me $200.
A superhero's gotta pay? Oh, I should've went to Sub-Zero Subs Heroes. He knows how to treat a mutant. Uh-oh. I can't find my wallet. Wolverine! Wolverine!
Yeah, Bob. You don't gotta yell about it. I'm right here.
Danny DeVito?
Who's this bum? Some new villain? Should I start blasting? With my claws?
No! He's the delivery guy. And I need some money.
I don't have any money. The guy in the wheelchair pays for everything. And I pay him every month with one of my organs.
What? Why?
Because they're expensive on the black market. You know how much I can get for a liver?
Can I get the money? I got other deliveries. Trust me, you do not want to keep the Fantastic Four waiting.
Oh, well, maybe I can help.
Al Pacino?
Can you pay for the sub, Spider-Man?
I'm not paying for the subs. I'm just a photographer at the Daily Bugle. I'm not Peter Parker. You're Peter Parker. You're Peter Parker. You're all Peter Parker. But not me. Where's this sketch even going?
They're probably going to do something lazy like have them say some of their well-known quotes.
Can I offer you an egg in this trying time?
I'll get that. Oh, my sciatica.
Don't go, Spider-Man. We need you. Oh, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. That was cool seeing Spider-Man and the X-Men together. Makes me think of Arcade's Revenge.
Arcade's Revenge? Wow! I know it's an incredibly flawed game, but I used to play it all the time. Well, for the Sega Genesis.
It's a really frustrating game, too. But it was better for the Super Nintendo.
What?! That's it?! Are we doing this?!
Was the first comic book History de Monsieur Vaubois by the Swiss caricaturist Rudolf Topher, known as The Adventures of Obadiah Oldbuck in English, first published in 1837? Yes.
That's Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge.
Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge was an action platformer released in 1992. There were games for the Game Boy and Game Gear. Today we're looking at the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis versions.
Both games were developed by Software Creations. The Super Nintendo version was published by LJN, while the Sega Genesis version was published by Flying Edge. Both these games are incredibly similar, but there are some differences. Which one's better? Let's find out.
These games both have the same underwhelming look.
Yeah, they're not the best looking games.
Let's start with the characters. They're very small. It doesn't allow for much detail. Characters that show their faces have no eyes, nose, or a mouth. Characters sort of look the way a child would draw them. Very simple, but still identifiable. You can recognize the main characters: Spider-Man, Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, and Storm. You can also identify major villains. There's Apocalypse, Juggernaut, Shocker, Large Black Queen, just to name a few. Character animations are minimal too. Characters running actually doesn't look too bad. Overall, very simple character designs and animations.
The levels aren't the most dazzling either, but at least they're unique for each character. Spider-Man has construction sites, Cyclops has mines, Storm has an underwater maze, Wolverine has a funhouse, and Gambit has a chess world? That one's a little more random. Again, not the most impressive looking levels, but at least there's variety.
Very similar looking games.
Matt, there is one glaring difference. Storm's level. On Super Nintendo, the water looks the way you'd expect. Blue, with lots of moving circle-like shapes. Works very well for underwater. On Sega, it looks like static. Not only does it look bad, it makes it harder to see. You'll miss items, enemies, and their projectiles. Sega really dropped the ball with this one.
Well, Sega does have some better use of color.
Check out Spider-Man's level. The building and the sky have a nice contrast with red and blue. On Super Nintendo, not so much. They went with some awful mixture of green and brown for the building. Just looks a lot better on Sega.
That's it? Because I got a lot more. Like the fact that your game loves black backgrounds. Check out the background on the first Wolverine level on Super Nintendo, a dark brown. Check out the second level, purple. On Sega, both levels have black backgrounds. Look at this trippy background on the Gambit boss on Super Nintendo. And how do they do that cool effect on Sega? They don't. Black background. Plus, the boss's face changes when he shoots on Super Nintendo. Doesn't change on Sega. Also, in another Gambit level, you see skulls and stars with a bunch of playing cards in the background. On Sega, just the playing cards. Everything else is black.
Okay, so there's not as much going on in the background. It's not that big a deal.
Actually, there's more. Back to Gambit's level. Check out the queen cards in the background. You can see her pucker her lips. On Sega, no puckering. Now to Wolverine stage. Look at the teeth in the background, just chomping away on the Super Nintendo. On Sega, no chomping. That jaw is totally wired shut. All the X-Men levels look better on Super Nintendo.
Not Cyclops. Cyclops' levels look the same. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
The first level for Cyclops does look the same for both games. The second level is a little different. On Super Nintendo, they changed the palette of the rocks. No longer purple. On Sega, no change. It's still purple. And just one more thing. Gambit. On Super Nintendo, Gambit has his classic pink shirt and pink stripes on his pants. On Sega, they give him a blue shirt and no pink stripes. You know they did that on purpose because they also did it for the title screen. And this cutscene. Super Nintendo, where Gambit is not afraid to rock pink. Very similar, but Super Nintendo looks better. With better water effects, more going on in the backgrounds, palette swaps, and an accurate Gambit, best graphics go to Super Nintendo!
Lots of our presentations similar too.
The cutscenes are the same during the intro, in-game, and endings. Title screen's the same as well. If you wait long enough, you see the credits for both games in the beginning because they probably knew very few would actually beat this game. The stage selection gives you a nice detailed picture of each character. Honestly, it's the best looking art in the game. It's complete with character bios. I like how all the X-Men's occupations are adventurers instead of, freeloaders. Also, Gambit is Remy Boudreau instead of LeBeau. Tomato, I suppose, or more like tomato silly putty, I guess. The HUDs are simple too. While different depending on your character, you have your life bar, score, number of lives, and any unique powers.
Very similar.
Yeah, but everything just kind of like pops more on Super Nintendo. Check out the comic panels. The unused ones are gray. Makes the highlighted panels stand out. On Sega, the unused panels are not gray. Just a little dimmer. Not as much pop. Also, the character bios. The green text on Super Nintendo, again, pops. On Sega, dull gray text that just doesn't.
But my font's italicized. Also, I have a really cool detail in one of my cutscenes.
Check out the ending on Sega. Look at Cyclops with that full head of hair. On Super Nintendo, boring old blue cap.
Oh yeah, the boring blue cap that the character has literally been wearing the entire time. Real dumb for Super Nintendo to keep that in there.
What's wrong with looking the way he did in the 90s cartoon?
Because that's not how he looked in the game. Besides, I have other reasons my presentation's better. Let's go back to the title screen. Both games feel the need to tell you the name of the game. Cut away, then tell you the name of the game again. It looks fine on Sega, but you know what Super Nintendo has? Mode 7, baby! And if that's not enough, look at the high scores. Bare minimum on Sega. Arcade's Revenge scrolling in the background on Super Nintendo. And one little thing. The box art for Super Nintendo is unique. The Genesis box art is the same as Game Boy and Game Gear. Very close, but the Super Nintendo does have an edge. With more pop and Mode 7. Best presentation goes to Super Nintendo.
This is one of those games where the music is the best part.
Yeah, it's a solid soundtrack by Jeff and Tim Follen. And doesn't this part of Cyclops' theme sound familiar?
Very similar, but I gotta
Before
say...
you say it sounds better on Sega, which it doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you now, you're missing songs. The Super Nintendo game has exclusive songs for Wolverine, and Storm. On Sega, Wolverine's level just uses Gambit's theme. And Storm just reuses Cyclops' theme. Not only is your game missing songs, but it's also missing sound effects.
Okay. Let's talk about that, because I think this is one of those cases where less is more.
Sega doesn't have a sound effect when Spider-Man's attack hits a wall. Super Nintendo does, and it's so obnoxious. It's like a gun going off. Spider Sense also doesn't make any noise on Sega. You just see the Spider Sense icon flash. It does make a noise on Super Nintendo, and you know what it sounds like? Farts.
Well, now the shoe's on the other foot, because now it's your game that sounds like farts.
I guess, but still doesn't change the fact that you're missing sound effects.
Why can't you let me have anything?
Nope, you will not have happiness as long as I live. Listen to the sound effect when you sling webs on Super Nintendo. On Sega, no slinging sound. Listen to these lasers on Super Nintendo. On Sega, silent lasers. Gambit's level on Super Nintendo, you can hear the giant spiky ball rolling when it's close. On Sega, silent giant spiky ball. Wolverine Circus level on Super Nintendo, you hear constant laughing. On Sega, no laughing. Ever. And my sound effects are just better. Listen to enemies dying on Cyclops Super Nintendo level. Sounds much better than the Sega. Listen to Storm breathing on Super Nintendo. Again, sounds better than the Sega. When you die, the scream sounds pretty good on Super Nintendo. It's a weird series of grunts on Sega. Again, my game just has the edge. For having two exclusive tracks for Wolverine and Storm, more complete and better quality sound effects, best sound goes to Super Nintendo! Similar gameplay. The game is an action platformer. The actions depend on one of the 5 characters you get to play. Spider-Man can jump, web attack, and web sling. Wolverine can jump, retract claws, and has 2 different punches which can be with or without claws. Cyclops can jump, punch, kick, and optic blast. Gambit can jump, throw cards, and has an explosion special. Storm is the most unique character as her first 2 levels are underwater. There she can move in any direction and shoot lightning. She also has a lightning storm special and tiny whirlwind special. Her last level, she's on her feet and can jump very high and shoot multiple directions.
The game starts off with a Spider-Man security level. After that, you can be any of the 5 characters. Each character has 2 levels. Once you beat all those levels, you get a final stage where you get to play as each character one more time. You finish as Spider-Man as you face the final boss, Arcade.
Every character's level plays differently. Spider-Man is a lot of platforming, wall climbing, and web slinging. Storm is completely underwater. Gambit has to race against time from a giant rolling spiky ball, or from a rising platform. He also has a limited attack, so you're constantly stocking up on cards.
Wolverine's first level plays like a typical platformer, but his second level is a race against death as you need to kill a charging Juggernaut before reaching a certain point. Cyclops' level is also very typical. It does have minecarts though, just like Cyclops to have the dorkiest game mechanic.
Simple, but really difficult.
It is brutal to get through these games.
This game is hard. You're going to die. Like, a lot. Other than Spider-Man's security level, you might not be any level at all. It's incredibly hard to not die in this game.
Every level ends with a boss fight. If you die, you have to do the entire level all over again. And these are long and difficult levels. There are no checkpoints.
In addition to no checkpoints, there are no continues, no password, and no saving. You gotta beat this in one shot. Oh, and all characters share lives too, so that's fun.
And this game has many creative ways to kill you. There's the typical falling, Gambit getting crushed of course, but wait, there's more. As Cyclops, you can get electrocuted. Also, crushed like a pancake. Wolverine can be destroyed by Juggernaut instantly if he catches up to you. Storm has it the worst though. Her life bar is oxygen, which means it is constantly going down. You're always looking where to surface or hopefully find some sweet, sweet bubbles. If you ever get hit, you are racing to find air, but you'll just probably die. This game loves to kill you.
Just a really flawed game.
Yeah, which sucks, because it's not entirely terrible. There is stuff to enjoy there.
The gameplay variety is actually engaging. It's really fun to play with all these different characters with different powers so differently. If this game just had a password or a save, it would be held in much higher regard. Throw in checkpoints at the bosses and some continues, and we're golden. This game is so unforgiving though, and it's a shame because it's not all that bad. That really missed? Really?
You know, it could have been one of the best superhero games. Just a shame it's so hard.
Well, the Sega game is a little easier.
The game over on Sega is more forgiving. As long as you get a game over after beating the security level, when you restart, you're asked, do you wish to skip the Spider-Man security level? You don't have to play this area at all. You can skip it. Skip it. On Super Nintendo, after you get a game over, you get nothing.
Nothing.
You have to play the security level all over again. You have to hear Spider Sense farts every time.
So I have to play the security level again. It's only 3 minutes. Besides, your game is harder because of the controls.
Let's talk about the controls. Some characters have 4 moves. Wolverine, for example, can jump, punch, uppercut, and retract his claws. That's 4 different commands. On Super Nintendo, 4 buttons, no problem. On Sega, problem. It doesn't utilize a 6-button controller, it only uses the 3 buttons. This means one move requires an extra step, the claws. You have to hit up and uppercut to do it. I couldn't figure it out on my own, I had to actually look up the manual online. And you do want to switch between claws and fists. Claws kill easier, and certain enemies give health for defeating them with fists. Cyclops has 4 commands too. On Sega, the 3 buttons are for jump, blast, and kick. He can only punch while kneeling. Regular old Johnny Cage there, bud. Super Nintendo Cyclops can punch standing.
So, a couple characters' moves are 2 buttons.
So I have to play a security level every time.
Both games are flawed.
Does this mean...
Tie.
Super Nintendo makes you play the security level every time.
And Sega does have flawed controls for certain characters.
At the end of the day, it's not really enough to give either game the edge.
You're still going to have a hard time no matter which version you play.
Best gameplay is a tie. Even though both games are very similar, one is better, and that's Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge for the Super Nintendo. LJN, baby! It has better graphics with better water, more in the backgrounds, and a proper gambit. It has better presentation with more pop and Mode 7. It has better sound with more songs and more complete sound effects. And it has the same flawed gameplay. The Sega version isn't much of a downgrade. Honestly, the most glaring differences were missing music and the awful water effect. The games are around the same price though, so may as well play the more complete version. Best Spider-Man X-Men in Arcade's Revenge goes to Super Nintendo!
Let's just pay for it in organs. How's a kidney? You want two? Come back in like an hour.
They're still on this?
It's gotta be the longest sketch ever.
Well, last time, no one's giving away organs. Do you want to say something, Wolverine?
Oh, is that me? Yeah, I could make a swan out of my web.
That's not your line.
Why? It's right on. It's on the thing. I'm looking at it.
Spider-Man. There's you.
That's my line. Thanks, Ray.
Typical. Ooh, let's break character and just keep laughing instead of coming up with something that's actually funny. Who likes this stuff?
Oh man, did you see how they broke character? I love that stuff.
Hey, finally! The new Weird Al!
Oh, turn it up!
I puked in an Uber. Got drunk at a party. Did shots of Bacardi. I puked in an Uber. Threw up in the backseat. Got puke on the driver's feet. I puked in an Uber.
Great song. Makes me want to go to the bar.
Me too. Take an Uber?
Can't. Banned for puking.
Same.
Taxi?
Thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Support us on Patreon for earlier releases, bonus content, and the Discord. And check out our live channel, Console Wars Live. Special thanks to JediKnightMark for the donation of the games. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more Console Wars goodness. Later.
Christian Slater!
What?
Christian Slater!
That's Christopher Walken.
Oh, wow. I always get those two mixed up.
How?